Hello interwebs, welcome to Let's Fix Computers. This is an experimental video. Take a wild guess as to what the problem with this computer is. Take a good look at that fan and tell me what's wrong. What's wrong with this picture? The full description is it turns off after a short amount of time. So yeah. Now initially I took the side panel off this computer, so I was going to pull the hard drive and test the hard drive. And then I immediately saw that and was just like, oh, okay, yeah, I think we've solved this one already. Now, I was just going to clear it out and not bother starting up the cameras. However, I thought in the interest of science, let's find out what kind of effect this dust is actually happening. And also totally not because I bought an infrared thermometer and I want to play with it. So it's one of these things where you point a laser at it and it tells you what temperature that thing is, which is really, really cool. These things are like £10 on Amazon. Super cool. So let's start this thing up and see what it does. Yeah, science! Oh, we've got a knackered fan somewhere as well. I'm going to spam the delete key to get it into BIOS. And hopefully we will get a temperature gauge in BIOS that we can have a quick look at. Right, so our CPU temperature is apparently at 25 degrees at the moment. So do we actually get a read from the heatsink for that? Yeah, we're getting about sort of 20 degrees. Can it read from the fan? It seems to be about the same on the fan. What if I aim at the side of the heatsink? Yeah, about 25 degrees. So that dust is providing a little bit of thermal insulation. But if I aim it at the side of the heatsink, we're currently at 27. And it's slowly rising to 28. So I'm going to leave that to run for a little bit and just let heat soak set in and see what it does. And while we're doing that, let's just find out what fan is making that rattle. Okay, and it's the back fan making the rattle. So that fella's knackered, so we're just going to unplug that one. Okay, right, we've just started this thing up and just hidden the desktop icon so I don't show off any customer data. And very helpfully, it's not picking up my flash drive. Let's just try that in another USB port. How about that one? So, let's run up hardware monitor, and that's going to tell us what our CPU is running at. Hardware monitor. Okay, so we're holding the mid-60s, looking for 70 degrees at idle on the desktop. So what CPU is this? This is a first gen i5, because yeah, for a minute I was like, whoa, 110 watts peak in there. These things we're still reasonably power hungry back in this time. So yeah, so we're looking for the high 60s. So as soon as we put this thing under load, it's going to break down in tears. So at that temperature, what's our heatsink doing? So surprisingly, the heatsink is only at about sort of the mid-40s. And if we look on top, that insulating layer of dust is keeping us down in the mid-20s. So that's kind of fun. What's the graphics card up to? Graphics card is still looking at mid-30s. However, it's kind of shiny, so we might not be getting a really good reading from that. What about our vCore? That's about 30. 35, yeah, mid-30s. Kind of cool. Okay, let's give this thing something to do, and let's see what those temperatures do for the lols. Remember, we're recording this, so it's science. I need... What are we going to run on this? Let's run... Are we crashing? No, we're just running really, really, really slow. You know, I think the fault in this computer is actually a mix of things. I mean, it's obviously going to lock up if those temperatures hit about 100 degrees or so, which they probably will under load. However, this thing is just unusably slow as well. So it's not just the heat that's causing this problem. In fact, I think we've jammed up entirely now. I don't think the heat is actually what's killing this computer, although it ain't helping. If this was a gaming rig and you tried to start up something intensive, then that is just going to melt. How boring. let's clean all this out. I don't think there's as much entertainment as I'd hoped to be had from this, but we'll clean it all out and we'll see what it does then. Okay, here we are out back. Here comes the air compressor. Okay, look how much better that looks. Let's see how that has affected temperatures now. So let's fire it up. We'll drop straight into Windows just because we get more temperature from there because there's more load on the system. If I can find the power button. Cool, so what are we getting now? So we have about 30 on the side and mid-20s on top. It was looking for 24, 25. Can we read through the fan? Yeah, so the fan blocks a little bit of it. If I move to the side and let the sensor see the heatsink, we get a little bit higher. It'll probably be more heat toward the center of the heatsink as well. Okay, and in hardware monitor, we can now see that we're down in the high 30s, looking for mid 40s under load. So, well, we didn't discover much about using the thermometer, unfortunately. That's more testing is required there. However, at the very least, we showed the immediate effect that a carpet of dust across your cooling system will have. So, okay, well, since we're already here, and I've already introduced you to this system, we may as well carry on working on it. So, I'm going to pull the hard drive out of it and put that on test, because while I'm not convinced it's the hard drive, however, there's no point in going any further with a computer that is crashing until you have tested the hard drive. So we may as well do it. And really inconveniently, this hard drive is screwed in on both sides. So let's take the other panel off and get that thing out. Alright, 2009 Hitachi. What do we reckon? Let's find out. Okay, right, we plugged this drive in, and it has mounted first time. However, the computer was starting up, so I'm not surprised at that. Let's start up CTools for Windows and see what that has to say about this thing. Right, Hitachi. So we're dropping straight into the long test on this. Now immediately the estimated time on this long test has gone to 7 hours 18 minutes. That's not a good sign. This is a large drive. How big is this drive? Okay, it's a 2 terabyte drive, so I would expect this to take 4 hours. Well, 4 to 5 hours. So 7 hours 20 minutes, that's not a good start. We're going to leave this to run for a bit and we'll see how much progress it makes. If the progress bar hasn't started moving within the next hour, then we will immediately assume that this is a failure, because it shouldn't take that long. Well, it's been running for about 15 minutes or so, and we're down to 6 hours and 52 minutes. So the test is progressing, and that estimated time seems to be dropping faster than the speed at which it's actually testing. So I think this thing might be okay after all. We're just going to have to sit and let it run all the way through. So see you whenever. Okay, right, we're switching to voiceover now because I was an idiot and didn't sound test. So the hard drive did pass the test. It took a really long time, but it did get through the test, and that is good enough for me. If CTools says it's a pass, then it's a pass. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to mem test this computer. Again, I don't think it's going to be a memory issue, but mem test is easy to run, as you guys have seen in a more recent video. So we're going to crack on through that next and see if we have any luck. So our memory test has passed and there's no errors found. So at this point I'm pretty happy that there are no hardware issues with this computer at all. It's just a software issue. So we're going to drop the hardware tests and go back into Windows and start doing some software tests. The first thing we're going to do is see if we can boot into safe mode. Because if the fault goes away in safe mode, that immediately tells us that it's a program that runs on startup causing the fault. So let's roll into safe mode and see what happens. So we're into safe mode and I left the system running for about 15 to 20 minutes and the fault did not reoccur. The computer had not crashed. I was able to scroll and browse files no problem. So this immediately tells us that it's some item of software, some startup item running in the background that is causing our fault, because it does not occur within safe mode. So the next thing we're going to do is replicate safe mode environment in normal mode. We're going to do this with msconfig. Now msconfig is an app I often scorn the use of when servicing computers. However, when diagnosing, msconfig is really handy. We're going to start it up and we're going to drop the computer into a diagnostic startup. This gives us something that is very, very close to safe mode in normal start conditions. It disables all the startup services and startup items, but still launches the basic Windows interface. And after sitting in Windows for about 10 minutes, our fault is still there. Windows Explorer is still jamming up on us. So it's not one of the common items running on startup. So let's head back into safe mode because we clearly can't do anything in normal mode right now. Okay, so the next question is, what is still running that could be causing this problem? So if we check along in the services and in the startup, as you can see, everything's disabled. However, not all services get disabled. Some of them are too critical to disable. But notice that Norton 360 reckons that it's too critical to disable. That could well be our problem. Looking down, we've got some other bits and bobs here, task scheduler, some other Microsoft stuff. This isn't going to be it. The Microsoft services very rarely cause faults like this. However, Norton 360, that has full file system access and runs at an above administrator level. That could definitely cause a fault like this. So let's ditch Norton 360 and see what happens. We can't just uninstall it from the system because the installation wizard won't run in safe mode. However, we can use the Norton removal tool to scrub it off the system instead. So let's do that. One download later and we've got the Norton removal tool downloaded from the Norton website. So let's run through this and let it scrub Norton off the system. Okay, so the system has been left to run for about 15 minutes. Let's open up an Explorer window, and as you can see, we've not crashed, it's all responding normally. So it looks like we're done here. Let's set msconfig back into normal mode and just make sure that the computer starts properly. Alright, so one reboot later and one 10-minute wait later to make sure everything's okay, and everything is okay. As you can see, we've got the visual effects back, we're in full normal mode, we have access to everything. So past that, we're done, and we can now move to servicing. So thank you very much for watching everyone, I will see you all next time. Goodbye for now.